Hello there, and welcome back to the channel. This is my second video in a series on utilizing contemplative or mindfulness-based awareness practices in the creative process. In thinking about how to follow up on the video that I made last week, I really only had to go to the comments. And one of the things that caught my attention is how many of you had stories of pain and difficulty to share. So what I thought I would do is to talk about that, talk about pain and connect that to the creative process. In a lot of ways, and I've been in the mindfulness world for a very long time, pain is very often the entry point into practice. In fact, I had a teacher once. I was on a 7 or 10 day silent meditation retreat, and the teacher came in and looked at us and he said, "I'm so sorry that it's come to this." And the point is well taken. So many people come into meditation practice and spend 10 days in silence, not because they're doing well, but because they're trying to mitigate their own suffering, basically. So this is par for the course in a way. And what I thought I wanted to do today is to talk about some of the maybe insights or skills or just the kind of wisdom, capacities even, that we develop in relationship to pain as practitioners of mindfulness. And then try to connect that to the creative process, and I'll lead a little meditation at the end on an engagement with pain in real time. So that's what we're going to do. So one of the things that I was thinking about that, I have a little short list in mind of things that people who practice mindfulness or contemplative practices in general, they tend to establish a connection to that which is not pain as a way of stabilizing themselves before engaging with the painful experiences. And, there is some wisdom in that, or let's say there is a capacity to develop wisdom just in that kind of move that you make, because one of the problems with pain is that we can get so sucked into it that we feel like that's all that's happening. And the fact is that human life is always experienced on a spectrum of, pleasure and pain, basically, and everything in between. My life exists on a spectrum between the most painful thing that you could possibly imagine and the most pleasurable thing that you can possibly imagine. And at any given time, and all you have to do is get still for a minute, and there will be parts of your experience that feel good to you, and parts of your experience that feel neutral to you, and parts of your experience that feel unpleasant, even in the most subtle ways. Like if you sit still for 5 minutes with your legs crossed, some sort of pain will arise probably in your legs or in your lower back or something like that. But you also will feel the pleasantness of the heat of your hands touching your other hand or your legs or whatever. That spectrum of pleasure and pain is available to us to orient to at any point in time. And what we start to realize in working intentionally with the painful or difficult experiences is to anchor ourselves in that which is not the pain. So that could be anything from just orienting to something that is pleasant or beautiful in the environment, connecting with others, leaning into just stabilizing resources in general. And I will include that in a practical way in the meditation that we do in a few minutes. So that's thing number one. People who are exploring pain intentionally often will, as a part of the experience, connect with that which is not pain as a stabilizing resource. So that's thing number one. Thing number two, that people in exploring pain through awareness-based practices will basically develop something called equanimity. Equanimity is a willingness to turn towards and to become intimate with painful experiences. And actually, equanimity works in both directions. What it really is it's a developed capacity over time that allows us to just sort of sit with the impulses to get rid of pain and to grab at pleasure. So really, equanimity is not being influenced by the prompts of liking and disliking things. So we're not trying to get rid of things that are painful, and we're not really reaching for things that are pleasant. And that's a kind of core spirit of the practice. Is just a willingness to be present with whatever is there. So in terms of pain, it means a willingness to turn towards, to become intimate with, to deeply know pain. And part of what happens in that process is that pain gets normalized. There is no human experience without pain. There is, just the very fact that we're born rather vulnerable and dependent, and we remain dependent for several years is in itself somewhat painful, especially if our needs are not met early in life. So there's the vulnerability of being born, there's aging, there's sickness, there's death, there's not getting what you want, there's having to contend on a daily basis with that which is not preferable to you. There's disappointment, loss, getting what you want, but then losing it, right? I mean, there's all kinds of ways that life will assert its painful side to us. And what we do in contemplative practices is that we become willing to turn towards and meet the pain in a way that just sort of, says, here it is. I mean, we don't go necessarily looking for it, but when it comes up, there's a willingness to turn towards it and to be present with it. And in a way, it's like we stop asking, why me? And we start to lean into, well, why not me? I'm a human. I'm here on the planet. I have a body, heart, and mind, and I'm experiencing life. And part of what's entailed in life is pain. So we stop trying to get rid of it, and we have a willingness to turn towards it. So that's number two. And to develop an equanimity, a kind of capacity to be with pain without hurting ourselves, or not. And I'll talk about that. Well, maybe that's kind of the next point, is that part of what we do is we develop wise responses to pain. We stop harming ourselves. We stop making things worse. We stop harming others. We stop numbing. Numbing in its extreme form is called addiction, right? That's driven by pain. Part of getting sober, I've been sober for 20 years, is a willingness to turn towards and respond wisely to pain. And probably, I think most practitioners of mindfulness would agree that you could summarize the responses to pain, the wise responses to pain can be summarized as compassion. Compassion is, I always like to teach about compassion by comparing it to kindness. And I challenge people to, if you were not to use the word kindness, but you were to describe things that you saw in the world that were kind, you would say things like, that person accepted me, that person was patient, that person was generous, right? That person was friendly. Well, we take all of those kinds of ways of responding, to others, and we apply it to when pain is present. Compassion is only relevant in relationship to pain. So what would it look like to be patient, to be accepting, to be generous, to be friendly with pain, to care about it? That's what compassion is for me, and that can be part of the story that we tell as we're making our work in relationship to pain. So we become aware of our responses to pain. The other thing that I wanted to convey in this, and it's like my favorite thing in the world, like really one of my favorite things, is to see a person who comports themselves with dignity in the face of the inevitable difficulties and pains and losses and disappointments of life. It arises from this kind of wisdom where people know, this is just what happens in life, right? So there's a kind of a dignity. There's this amazing video of Patti Smith. She's at the Nobel Peace Awards, and it's in 2016. And she's representing Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan's not there, but she's singing a Bob Dylan song in his place. And it's a hard song. It's Hard Rain's Gonna Fall. Is that title? Yeah, something like that. but it's a complicated set of lyrics. And early in her performance, she drops the lyrics. She forgets, and you see her turn into this, like, it's almost like a little girl. She just is like, and she stops and she goes, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, and I'm so ashamed." She just has this moment, and she just looks and she says, "Can we start again there?" And she starts again. In a few minutes, she drops the lyrics again, but this time the conductor's there to really feed them to her. There's this kind of support going on. But by the end of this very long, complicated song, she is in this space of like selling the shit out of this song. It's amazing. It's one of my favorite things that I've ever seen on the internet. And the way that I described what I saw there was like this beautiful metaphor for life, just falling on your face, doing it publicly. She's singing on this balcony with an orchestra to literal royalty, people dressed with diamonds on their, it's this wild thing. And she's just so dignified. She just feels the pain of it. She feels the embarrassment. She keeps going, I love that quality. And I think it's a quality that we can't help but develop when we recognize that pain is inevitable as a part of the process of being alive, and developing a willingness to turn towards and to become intimate and get to know pain, to know our relationships with pain, to know our impulses and responses with it. And the last thing I want to say that I think is important in all of this is we become conscious of the stories that we tell about our painful experiences. This is huge. This is a huge part of become conscious of the stories that we tell. I don't think there are many things in this life that determine how much we suffer or how much joy and happiness we experience in life than the stories we tell about pain. So as we kind of turn towards the meditation and we're thinking in terms of what are the stories we want to put out into the world, become conscious of your relationship, your story about the pain in life. Now, there is a place for telling, the Morrisseys and the George Carlins of the world, who I love those people, they do a little bit of sort of wallowing in their stories, right? And I need that, and I love that. And there's a cathartic space that I enter into. I don't necessarily want to live there, but that's one way to tell the story. Another way is to tell the empowering story. I feel like Shania Twain would be a great example. She's got so many songs that are like about the pain, but a positive flip on the story of that painful experience. So that's a basic summary of some of the ideas that I have. Establish connection to that which is not pain. Develop equanimity, which is a willingness to turn towards pain and get to know it, normalize it. Comport ourselves with dignity. Be aware of our responses to pain, compassion being central to that. And choosing empowering stories, or at least developing awareness of the stories that we tell and their impact on our lives. So let's do a little bit of a sitting. What I want to do is, I'll just do it. I want to establish a little bit of connection to that which is not pain as a starting point. And then we'll just do a kind of quick, just real time. And this is a technique that you can take with you into any moment, literally. You could sit down and you could do this. So I'll just do a kind of quick sitting. So take a posture that you can maintain for a little while. Probably a little bit upright, some intention to be wakeful in your posture. Let your posture reflect, an awakened attitude. This is investigative. Is that a word? Investigative. We're looking and developing intimacy with our experience, so it's good to be awake and have your posture reflect that. So I'm not a stickler on whether you have your eyes open or closed. Probably for this, it might be helpful because of where we start to close your eyes, but it doesn't matter all that much. And if you feel that you're more stabilized by staying connected to the external visual field, then you can do that too. It doesn't really matter. So let's start by bringing to mind an image of either a place or another being or a person, something that supports the arising of good feelings. This could be a place that you go that's really beautiful. It could be the face, like an image of your pet or someone that you feel really safe with. It could be just a remembered image of an environment in which you feel more safe than usual, comfortable. Just some image that allows you to feel pleasure, to feel good, to feel something positive, regenerative. And then as you sort of enjoy that image, just notice what happens in your body. Allow it to affect the way that you feel. Let some warmth develop in your chest or your belly. Let your face smile a little bit. And let it soften your posture. Drop your shoulders, soften your belly. Let the chair or cushion or floor or whatever you're doing, just let it take a little more of your weight. We're just going to relax into this posture and enjoy the image and let it move us. Let it touch us physiologically, emotionally. So we'll just do that for a couple of moments. Really allowing that image to touch you in some way. Just enjoy it. And also having a sense of collecting your awareness around this image. There are things happening, there are sounds in the environment and different things going on, but just, using this almost as a concentration kind of exercise, or just gathering awareness that will then turn on the body. And knowing that we can come back to this image as a kind of resource in this exploration of pain or difficult experiences, which we might need it. Just kind of take that image and put it in your back pocket or in your front little shirt pocket or whatever, and just know that you can come back to that to reestablish yourself in some kind of regulation or something that supports a pleasant or positive feeling. So letting go of that, I now want you to bring to mind something manageable. We're not going to go for the biggest tragedy or the most difficult thing that's going on, but think of something that is challenging, that is painful, that is unpleasant. Again, this is a normal part of life. Conflict, loss, disappointment, physical pain, illness, aging, all completely normal. And we are just practicing a willingness to turn towards and know this painful or difficult experience. This is the practice. And I wonder what it might be like to, even right here in your own skin, to lean into a dignified posture. I don't mean a physical posture, but taking a dignified stance, taking the space with dignity, the inner space. What would it mean to have dignity as you relate to this difficult or painful experience? A sense of not being diminished by, of not being ashamed of this pain. And notice what happens in the body. Notice what happens emotionally. And emotions are basically just sensations in the body, or at least that's how they're known to us. Notice what happens physiologically, emotionally, physically as you reflect on this painful experience. Dignified, but painful. And what are the stories that you tell about this experience? Is it an empowering story? Is it a true story? Is it one that supports your well-being or diminishes it? Is it a story of victimhood? What story are you telling about this experience? And what story could you tell? Could there be an alternate take on this experience, a more generous take, a more compassionate take, a more honest take? And what has your response been? And how might you respond now? And finally, what story do you want to tell the world, your audience, about this painful experience? Is there an impulse to do some work with it? And what does that impulse look like? Is it writing lyrics? Is it reaching for a certain instrument? What medium are you called to tell this story with? And are you willing to follow through on that impulse and do the work? So, letting go of the formal practice, just coming back into your space. If you're in a room, just checking out the walls, noticing the sounds around you, allowing some movement. Maybe that wasn't there before. I just want to end on this. I heard someone say something brilliant, and it was only a couple of years ago, and I've kind of been in this space for a long time. I don't know how nobody said this, but and it really resonates as true for me. And the statement was, grief demands an audience. And I think you could expand that to say that pain in general demands an audience. I think it's something fundamental to human experience that we need to be witnessed in our pain. And we need the work that we see in the world, the songs, the films, the photos, to reflect our pain and difficulty back to us. And when that happens, we develop a very deep connection with the artist, and the artist with the audience. And I think there's nothing more human than allowing ourselves to the vulnerability of letting people see the pain. It's good for us, it's good for the audience. Pain demands an audience. And I think pain heals when it's witnessed by others. I don't think, so much of our trauma and our pain comes from relationships with others. And people I've worked with and surrounded myself with, teachers, people who write books, all the stuff. there is this sort of sense that we don't heal in isolation. So our creative work can be part of that healing. I have said enough. I wish you well. I hope this inspires good work. That is my intention, to support artists to do work using contemplative practices. Please give me some feedback. I like to read the comments. And in fact, I would like to have this sort of be a thing where this goes is partly determined by the people on the other side of the camera here. So let me know if this inspired work, what the work looked like, what it was like to play with these concepts of connection to that which is not pain, to be conscious of our stories, equanimity, dignity, responsiveness, all of that stuff. What did that provoke in you? What did the practice itself bring up? What do you want to see next? Let me know. Okay, that's it. That's all I got for you. I hope this is helpful. See you next time.